Assassination attempts on Putin, the felon, Musk. The protests on April 5th, will they be peaceful? Will there be violence? The child labor law in Florida, will it become law? And are we looking at another coal mining accident in the near future? Let's look into all that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to all the new subscribers, to everybody who subscribed to the channel, everybody who watches, comments, likes the videos, shares the videos, promotes the channel in any way whatsoever. Huge, huge thank you. Um, if you've given money to the channel, very humbled by that. I have yet another tarot deck that was recommended by one of our members that will be coming in a week or so. I think it's called the Law of Attraction Tarot. It looks very interesting. So let's let's do a little recap. So I don't remember when it was, but I said I saw a car bombing happening in Russia, and sure enough, that happened this weekend. So I'm recording this on Sunday evening. Normally I record in the mornings, but I'm recording this on Sunday evening, March 30th. So there was a car bombing in Moscow, a limousine. The story says it was part of Putin's fleet. So was this an assassination attempt? Back in I think it was December, there's a video I released. This was before the channel was very big. It was called Putin's Health and Trump's Health, or the Felon's Health, um, in which I predicted the assassination attempt of Putin. I also felt like there was going to be one against the felon, so we'll look into that too. And recently I started thinking that there might be something going on with Elon Musk. There's so much passion and anger in the country that it's really quite scary, which is why I think we also need to look at the April 5th protests. Now, these are global planned protests against the felon and Musk. So will there be violence? Will they be peaceful? And then Florida wants to pass a law allowing 14-year-olds to be able to work overnight shifts because, surprise, surprise, there's a shortage of people to work because of all the deportations and people leaving for fear of being deported as well. And then recently it was reported that the Felons Administration is getting rid of the coal mine safety inspectors. And I had a vision about this a couple months ago that it didn't seem like it was possible, but now that the inspections are gone, it feels more realistic that we might see a coal mining accident. I sure hope that that's wrong, but let's look into that as well. So let's start with the child labor laws in Florida. So will this become law in Florida? Will Florida allow 14-year-olds to work overnight shifts? I don't know how exactly the laws work in Florida. It's one of the very few states I've never even been to. Um, but when I was growing up, where I lived, if you were under 16, you couldn't work past like 10 p.m. during the school year, and you couldn't work until you were 15. So we'll wait past this. Okay. I'm getting the image of the Six of Cups in the water, which is about intergenerational relationships. It's also a little bit about parenting. So let's see what the cards have to say. Unfortunately, I think what this does is this targets children that are in a situation where they're already probably marginalized, right? Where they're probably on the poor end of the spectrum. The parents probably would be encouraging them to work, versus, children that are in, middle class or better to do families probably wouldn't encourage their children to work at all. So this really is kind of a form of almost the I don't know. I don't like it. I don't know the quite word for it. So we're going to have choices. I mean, just because they pass the law doesn't mean your child's going to have to work, obviously. Um, but the problem is I don't know that they have the actual strength of the voters to get it passed. And what I mean by that is even if it passes, there might be a ballot initiative to repeal it. I think in Florida you can do that. Um, the fear is poverty, being left out in the cold. And this is exactly what I'm picking up on is that it's like almost exploitation of children living in poverty because now rather than maybe being eligible for Medicaid or SNAP benefits, they'll be considered, well, get a job, you're now working bodied, right? Which is a horrible thing to do to a 14-year-old. In the past, we get the lovers, unlikely partnerships. This is just a combination of the felon and DeSantis. Not that they're in cahoots together per se, but as a result of the felon's actions, DeSantis is pushing this because, quite frankly, I think they're very concerned about grocery prices and other things. I think they think this will help with that. I don't think it will. I think it would have been best just to let things be. There's going to be some quick action if this passes. Expect quick lawsuits filed almost immediately. Yeah, the public's being handed something they don't want. People don't want this. They don't want their 14-year-olds to work, and they understand that the 14-year-olds that will be working will probably kind of be forced by their parents to do so. Either that or economic conditions will force them to do so rather than giving them a hand up and helping them get an education and food and shelter. It's like, okay, you have to work for the food and shelter, and you know, your education is secondary, which is not going to help anybody. Yeah, I mean, this is a plan concocted by rich people that just don't understand, right? I mean, that's exactly what it's about. It's like, it's not thought of by the working class. People aren't thinking, yeah, I want my kids to work so we can have extra money for summer vacations. I don't think they're thinking that. I think they're in for some bombshells and surprises. I think it might pass, but I don't think it's going to be very well received. Yeah, look at the death card and the hopes and fears. It's like the end of the protection that children had is the fear, and the hope is that it's this end of this horrible cycle of taking advantage of people. We get the chariot card too. This concerns me that there's forward momentum involved in this. There's a lot of anxiety about what this means, in particular with relation to social programs. Like, do you have to, if you're on, the SNAP program or Section 8 and there's a 14-year-old in the house, are they going to be forced to work? There's lots of questions about whether those benefits will get cut if they're not working. It just seems like a nightmare. And ultimately, I think a lot of people are going to feel trapped by this law if it passes. So, but if one plan doesn't work, try another. Yeah, circles of support and celebration. This, I think, is the felon Musk and DeSantis. But the truth about this is going to come out, and the truth is already coming out, is that we need migrant workers. This country has always needed migrant workers. And if they go away, drastic steps have to be taken. And these drastic steps now involve your children. And I don't think that's going to go over very well. Will it become law? I think it will. Will it get struck down by the courts? I think it will. Um, so I don't think it'll, like, by it becoming law, I don't know that it'll ever get enacted. I think it'll become law and then immediately be struck down by the courts. Okay, so I had an image. Um, this was I don't know, February-ish time of, do you remember? I don't remember when this was, but there was a bunch of Chilean miners that got trapped and they all were rescued. I believe they all were rescued safely, but it was like a huge news story where, it was like live on CNN and other news outlets watching the rescue. I had an image of something similar happening here in the US, like some preventable disaster happening. I don't know that people perish. I didn't necessarily see that, but it'll be something that's very preventable. And it's going to really shock the coal mining industry. So the felon is already closing the people that look into safety in certain places in the country, or Musk is, or whoever's making these financial decisions. And of course, unions in particular around coal mining that's their number one bargaining is they bargain for safety, right? So should we be concerned about this coal mining accidents? I think so. I have this like pit in my stomach type feeling. There's going to be a lot of anxiety because I think we'll see a lot of safety cutbacks right away because these coal mine owners, like the really rich guy in West Virginia, are more interested in making money. They don't care about the people that work for them. Yeah, there was strength and protection from the safety commission. And the challenge really is anybody else going to care other than the coal miners themselves? I sure hope so. The days of feeling secure and making a good living in the coal mines, I think they've been dwindling as coal mining has started to dwindle. But that feeling of safety, if that goes, um, I think that idea of celebrations will be gone. In the past, there's emotional message coming forward. This is eliminating the safety structure. Yeah, and it's very foolish. You get the Page of Swords, immaturity, not thinking things through, almost deliberately sabotaging the working class. In the near future, there's going to be things coming to the surface that we can't see. And this feels exactly like what I'm talking about. Is like people being trapped in the mine and then being pulled to the surface, but they didn't need to spend how many ever days down there that they're going to be down there. I feel like something like that's going to happen. I hope I'm wrong, but and I know that's not exactly the interpretation of the moon card, but this is like things coming to the surface, right? It feels like this event isn't that far off. Maybe it's not until the end of the year or next year, but it's going to happen. Why is it going to happen? Because the guardrails are gone. The Nine of Wands is all about guardrails. And I've said this many times, the Nine of Wands is going to pop up in many readings because there's going to be a lot of need to talk about guardrails and whether they're being removed or kept up. Uh, we're hoping logical minds prevail, but with the King of Swords, I don't know that they will. In the hopes and fears, if one plan doesn't work, try another. The Eight of Pentacles, also the Apprentice card, meaning it's kind of like amateur hour. That's the fear, is that these people don't really know what they're talking about when they're eliminating these agencies because they don't really understand what how dangerous coal mining really is, especially in the like deep underground mines. Now there are some coal mines that are above ground. That's a different story, but the deep underground coal mines are very dangerous and they don't understand that. The miners themselves are going to feel very overwhelmed by this. They did not vote for this, and I guarantee that Donald Trump probably won, or the felon, excuse me for using his name, probably won a huge majority of coal mining votes. right? Definitely a huge majority in coal mining states like West Virginia and Kentucky. And so partnerships, hoping to find a new partnership. Expect some lawsuits about this. And here's the Six of Cups, worrying about their children, not only worrying about being able to provide for them financially, but worried about what happens if they are no longer there. I mean, it's been a while since we've had a really tragic coal mining accident that I can think of, but it's not been that long. Like, it's not been that long. This is people walking away from MAGA, the coal miners in particular. They're done. This is like the end of the rope for them because they realize it's all about money and it's not money for them. It's about toxicity and abuse of power, and they're the pawns in this game. And really what they're concerned about are their families and financial security with the Ace of Pentacles. But they also want to be able to earn a just living. They don't want to have to take unnecessary risks. So unfortunately, I do think that's going to come to pass. We shall see. Okay, so before we get to the assassination attempts, let's look at the April 5th protests. So my understanding of this is these are planned around the world. Um, let's ask. Let's just ask the question, what can you tell us about the April 5th protests? What do we need to know about April 5th protests? To know about the April 5th protests. See the Five of Wands, unfortunately, in the water, which is about fighting. Also see the Five of Swords, though. It's about being wounded in battle, but there's also a victor in that card too. It feels like the protesters are the victor. I think the protests are going to matter. Like they're going to make a difference. I think people are asking themselves, how long do I stand by before I do something? Yeah, it's inevitable. People are going to ask themselves this question. How long do we stand quiet before we speak up? It's inevitable. People are asking themselves this question. Because what's going on doesn't make any sense. People being detained without due process, money being redistributed to the wealthy, safety being taken away from coal miners, federal workers no longer have the right to collective bargain. Many of them have already been fired. Uh, my understanding is it's really hard to get through to the Social Security agency if you need to call them. And they want to do away with phone calls altogether. They want to put it all online, which, in 20 years might make perfect sense. But right now there's, people that aren't ready for that change. And there's also some physical limitations too. I mean, arthritis in your fingers, for example, is no joke. I have from writing for many years, this thumb sometimes gets a little wonky. They're going to be big, not everywhere, but they're going to be places where they're bigger than people think. And expect them to be dominated by older, in the US, older, primarily Caucasian protesters that are already retired. Because that's just what I'm seeing. I don't know. I don't know why that is. And that's good though. That's a good sign, right? Because these are tend to be the groups that, yeah, we're gonna have unlikely partnerships coming together. It's not just, I didn't mean to like imply that it's only going to be older Caucasians protesting. It's not. It's going to be a very diverse group, but there's going to be disproportionately more of that demographic than normal. Like we don't normally see people who are retired protesting for workers' rights, but they will be. And the problem is getting victory. So will these protests give us victory? Well, they're sure going to set some stuff ablaze, not literally. And if you're doing that, please don't take that as consent for me saying set things on fire because I'm not. What I'm saying is this is going to be the beginning of tearing down some structural um, oppression, for the lack of a better word. And we get the Queen of Swords. It's in the past, though. This is all about logic and consistency and truth and putting truth to action. It's in the past. Like the politicians no longer can be trusted. So we have to take upon this on ourselves. And we get the Eight of Pentacles. Lots of planning are going into this. If one plan doesn't work, try another. This will not be the last protest. I predicted these protests months and months ago before the uh, FELON was even inaugurated. The near future, there we get the Three of Swords. This is heartache, heartbroken, people just feeling dismayed, people feeling overwhelmed, people like asking themselves that question, how far do they go before I step up? And I think they're really close to that line. The Seven of Cups, there's so much to worry about. We get the Eight of Wands. These protests are going to spread and they're going to spread quickly. It wouldn't be surprised if we see, large scale protests every week and then twice a week, then 3 times a week until we get a change in leadership. We get the King of Wands and the hopes and fears. This is the hope for new leadership, the hope for people that care, people that are passionate, people that are passionate about being public servants. I don't know that we get that, but that's the hope. These protests are going to send a pretty fiery message. Page of Wands. They will be heard. Whether they're ignored is a different story. I think it might help to slow some things down and temper some things. We do get temperance. And we get the Hierophant, the church, the courts. That concerns me slightly. Let me pull one more card. With the Four of Pentacles. Okay, no, the church and courts, that's a good card. The Four of Pentacles is about stability. So the church and courts are going to protect the First Amendment rights. Yeah, it's going to be fiery. People are worried about money. They're sending an economic message already and, avoiding certain things. And the Knight of Wands, fiery messages coming forward. The problem is that there's a lot of circles of support for these oligarchy. They just have so much money, the oligarchy, that it's hard. So you have to disrupt their business. Musk was on Fox, I think it was, and whining that Tim Walz is so mean because Tim Walz keeps talking about Tesla's stock price as it plummets. Well, what's meaner, talking about Tesla's stock price or firing people for no reason? I mean, seriously, Elon Musk is like the whiniest of children. Sorry for that personal point of privilege, but that's the way I see him. Okay, so let's start with Putin. So this limousine bombing, um, was it, let's just pull like one card here. Was this limousine bombing an actual assassination attempt? It's people making choices, yeah. because of the abuse of power. The Emperor card. Sorry, I forgot to show them. People making choices. They're tired of the abuse of power. Now they'll probably pin this on Ukraine, and maybe Ukraine is, in some ways, some civilians in Ukraine might be responsible for it. I don't think the Ukrainian government is, but expect that to happen. Okay, so let's ask the question: will there be? Just show us Vladimir Putin. Let's just ask it that way. Can you just show us Vladimir Putin safety, health over the next, say, 3 months? Vladimir Putin's safety and health. Now, I already think there are people trying to assassinate him, and I think they're pretty close to him, like close as in like working directly with him. People trying to assassinate. Show us Putin's health, wellness, safety. What do we need to know about that? Interesting. I'm seeing 3 coins in the water again, and I can't make them out. I thought they were cryptocurrency for a while, and then for a while I thought they were UAE, United Arab Emirates money, the dinars. Maybe there's 3 coins. I don't know. Is that like a religious symbol? Does somebody know? Leave a comment if you know. It's like 3 coins, like literally making a triangle like that. Two and then one. The two are on top. I don't know. We get the Ace of Pentacles here. So the foundation is that everything seems to be okay. His challenge is avoiding fiery messages or fiery things or fiery cars, fiery limos. He's not trusted, is the way I'm taking this card. And he doesn't trust either. There's a lack of trust in all directions. In the past, he thought that he was safe and strong. He doesn't think that anymore. He doesn't think he's in a good leadership position. Yeah. We get the death card in the sky, crowning the reading. The near-term future, we get messages coming forward about health, or possibly money, possibly people paying money for this to happen. Get the Knight of Cups, emotional things coming forward. This could be news of that. Giving and receiving of money. Somebody's going to, okay, for entertainment purposes only. I don't think I said that in this video, but it is in the disclaimer of all my videos. It feels to me like there's going to be somebody paying somebody to try to accomplish that. And there's lots of defending and trying to keep him safe, and the hopes and fears. The fear is that they can't, that they're being attacked by the 6 other people, right? And the 7th person's defending himself with the 7 of Wands. So, they're not good cards. With the 10 of Swords is the outcome, complete and utter downfall. And in this particular tarot deck, it looks like they're carrying off somebody mortally wounded, like lost in a battle, not by ill health, but by a battle. We get the Queen of Swords, the truth, justice, it feels like. And people are not going to be sad about this. It's going to be met with cheerful news inside of Russia and especially outside of Russia. And it'll be the start for the world to sort of move on. It'll bring forward a crossroads. We're gonna have to be careful how we handle that because, you know, Musk and his goonies on social media are going to try to spin this into something it's not with all their deceit with the Seven of Swords. But the Democrats look like they're going to be there. The King of Cups, that's the card for the Democrats. And it'll be a new beginning, although it will be a precarious new beginning. So if my instincts were always this was going to happen, I didn't know whether it would be successful or not. These cards tend to hint that it's successful. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I always felt like July, August seemed like the right time frame, but I always question myself when I think of a time frame because I'm usually right about the idea. I'm not necessarily right about the timing because timing's really hard. I didn't get any images when I was thinking about this that would give a suggestion of a timing. So versus like in the last video I posted, I talked about seeing tulips with the Pope going to the hospital again, which made me think April, Easter time. But um, yeah, timing's really hard. Okay. What about Musk? Show us Musk. This Musk safety, health, well-being, the next 3 months. Will there be any attempts on unaliving him? Show us Musk. I think there will. I don't know if they'll make the news, and I don't really think they'll be successful. I wouldn't be surprised if there already have been and they're keeping it quiet. Definitely threats, but actual planning is a different story. Less well-being, safety. Yeah, I see the Five of Cups in the water, which is about loss. Now, that could just mean loss of safety, which I think is true. And it could mean more. Let's see if the cards go. I do think he's lost some security and safety. I mean, I think that's just kind of common sense. Yeah, circles of support around money, the three amigos, so to speak, of Putin, Musk, and Trump. His problem is justice. Now, I'm not going to read this as justice. I'm going to read this as karma. His problem is karma catching up with him. You know, some people give and some people take. That's the way the world has always worked. It's not a judgment on necessarily. It's the way, I'm not judging. I'll judge Musk if you want. I don't like the guy, but um per se, some people give more than they receive, some people take more than they give. That's just the course of actions, right? This is the way the world works. But if you're taking way more than what you're giving back, that's when karma can sort of come into this phase of like almost bringing about ill-fated things. And that's what that feels like. And part of that is because there's going to be some truth revealed. I don't think we quite know it yet. I think we suspect it. And this might just have to do with his profiteering off of the government. Yes, Tesla stock is going down. He's still rich. I mean, he's not going to be poor regardless of what happens to Tesla. In the past, we have the Knight of Swords. This feels like planning, people on the attack, but it's in the past and they're planning it. Seeds have already been planted with people. They're already thinking, how can we handle this situation? And like I said earlier, you're coming to that point of A lot of people are coming to that point. Not everybody. There's some MAGA trolls that come onto this channel every once in a while. I try to find them before anybody sees them, but um, a lot of people have come to that point of like, how long can we stay silent before we're complicit? Right. And whether that's just participating in protests or whatever little part you can do. No, you can't do it all. So don't overwork yourself. But people are getting to that phase. The near-term outcome is strength, but strength is also, an illusion. And here it feels more like an illusion. Here's the card for Russia. I think he's expecting Russia to help keep him safe. And well, if the previous reading is true, would that be true anymore? I don't know. Ten of Swords, again, complete and utter downfall. Now, this is the before tarot, but same concept. An impending doom. The hopes and fears is the Emperor card. This is the card for the presidency. The hope is that the presidency can keep him safe. The fear is that it can keep him safe in some sense for the people that are wishing him harm. The outcome is the Star card, which generally means protection. Then we get bombshells and surprises. And there's that Five of Cups that I've seen in the water. Loss ultimately comes down to some sort of loss at the end. What is the loss? Is it just, I mean, it could be like a karmic loss, like a loss of reputation, a loss of wealth, a loss of um, even being able to go out in public without being mocked, right? It could be that kind of loss as well. We have logic and truth. Here's him appearing in his own reading. The magician. What's the magician doing? Deceiving. Seven of Swords. Who's he deceiving? The entire world. And so now the world is at a crossroads and they're thinking, well, if one plan doesn't work, try another. He's pushed the world to the brink. That's why these protests are happening. The felon himself couldn't have orchestrated it quite as well as Mr. Musk because Mr. Musk has just more clout with some people. Okay, let's read on the felon. Let's use the lumen. This is the white lumen tarot. Okay, what can you show us about the felon's health, safety in particular? Show us about the felon's health, safety, protections. It just feels like the three of them go down together. It's like there's no, that's the scenario that I read on months ago when I did the 6-month readings on each of them. It like felt like they all went down together around the same time. Now, I don't know that that means exiting the planet for Musk. It could, but for entertainment purposes only, I think it's more of a like a karmic takedown and like, where his reputation and his companies are completely destroyed and he's off isolated alone and enjoying his billions of dollars. That's what it feels more like. This card wants to be seen. It's interesting. So this is the Ten of Pentacles, the inheritance card. Notice the dogs. Dogs sniffing things out of the bushes, right? Like bird dogs. He shows up the. I really think he knows his time is up. And that explains a lot of this like irrationality and firing a whole bunch of people at the IRS so they can do some sort of tax scheme to keep his money. We get the King of Swords, logic and truth. That's what people want in a leader. That's not him. His challenge is the sun, and this is something I've said time and time again. His challenge is information coming to light that he doesn't want to come out. And a lot of this is all about that. His relationship with Putin's all about keeping dirt hidden. Fiery messages coming forward. I've never I've never seen a car bombing except for the one that already happened in the US where the guy just killed himself, right? That's another thing. I don't know if you all saw in the news about the 4 police officers in Houston that took their own lives the last week. That's part of my 2025 predictions that the suicide rate's gonna just go really high this year. I don't think it feels like a car bombing. I don't know. Let's keep going. The Ten of Cups is in the past. This is people celebrating getting together. It's in the past. People aren't celebrating him anymore. Even the hardcore MAGA people, there are a few, but you know, they're starting to realize. And we're at a crossroads. Notice the snake around the neck. He feels very confined and very trapped. This is in the near future, though. And I think this is like trapped in his own head, which is kind of how Rosalind Carter explained dementia. Here's the Emperor card. So the card for the presidency. It's also the card for abuse of power. And it's the card that's representing why things are going the way they are. I'm sorry, that's the Empress card. Sorry, I misread Russia. But it's still the same idea. Feels exactly the same. The Four of Pentacles, trying to maintain stability. I think he's having a hard time. I think he's hoping, you know, this all of a sudden I'm mad at Vladimir Putin and we're going to suddenly buy that. The Three of Cups circles of support and celebration in the hopes and fears. He's hoping those three people, Musk and him and Putin, can keep it going. Not sure they can. No, judgment and the outcome. People are going to judge him. And then comes the world, which is the end of a cycle. The whole world is going to judge him. And it's going to be like this drastic change in humanity. There's more on my other channel about that if you're interested. And we get the courts and the popes. It's the yeah the pope's going to go a little bit before him, I think, but that's what I've always seen. Yeah, wounded in battle, 5 of Swords. Addictions catching up with him, 7 of Cups. Walking away from things that no longer serve us. That's the supporters walking away from him. And the Hanged Man pausing and suspending, rethinking their support. I don't know if there's an actual attempt to take him out. I didn't get that from these cards, but he's going to go down one way or another, health wise or something. And at that point, the world gets to move forward a little bit and breathes a sigh of relief. I think all three of them go down kind of together. That's why I read on all three of them. But anyhow, uh, thank you, and I'll be back with another video soon.